Howdy, everybody. Today I want to discuss the topic of training a large language model so you can ask it questions, right? So LLMs are all the rage now. This came up probably, I think, around 2 years ago. It really popped up on people's radars. I believe the concept has been researched for way longer than that, though. I think like over a decade, the research has been ongoing, but it became front and center just about 2 years ago because models became much more accurate, much more precise, and much more useful too, right? So before that, I think the research and development that went into these things was decent, but the performance just wasn't there. So people just weren't getting on board with it. But in the past couple of years, it's really blown up pretty huge. So this is front and center for love conversations right now today. So and this is, what is it, like late 2024. So yeah, I think about two years ago that kind of popped up on people's radar and they started noticing these things. So what can we do when we are training and testing LLMs, right? And how do we actually make this work? How do we make this effective, right? So I'm running this in the Jupyter Notebook. All my examples are in Jupyter Notebooks. I like the scalability up and down, out to, it scales out and it scales with large data sets very well. And I also have interactive charts, which I like a lot. All the plotly charts are very interactive, so you can zoom in and zoom out and mouse over, and the bubbles pop up and show you all the details of the data. So I think that's pretty cool too. So I tend to use Jupyter Notebooks quite a bit. So what can we do with an LLM? Certainly we can reduce our overall business expenses. We can operate more efficiently, more streamlined. We can have offline capabilities, right? We can have simplified local custom development, ease of use. We can make these very streamlined, so it just works on the desktop, or we can release it onto the web like ChatGPT. That doesn't actually go into the public domain, but it goes into ChatGPT's learning repository. So if you have anything that's any kind of confidential, secure document, you would not put that into ChatGPT. Please don't do that, because it's not going to be confidential the instant you do that, right? But if you download a pre-trained model like you'll see here, you can ask it customized questions on your desktop, and then you're not exposing yourself to any kind of release of your confidential information, right? So with an LLM, once the model has been trained and tested, we can use it for document summarization, domain-specific question and answer interaction. Great, we can certainly do that. And overall text analysis and entity extraction. So let's jump into it. Okay, I have some files saved on my desktop right here. This is the path. I'm not going to run these cells. Usually I do that, but this model is pretty large and it tends to take a while to run, like upwards of maybe 5-6 minutes. And I don't think it makes sense to sit around and wait for that. And by the way, I don't edit any of the video. So it's not like I run it and then I sit and wait for it and then edit that part out. I just talk kind of like a professor would do, but I don't edit any of my videos. It's just me going through step by step, explaining what's happening. So I don't want to spend 10 minutes or upwards of 10 minutes to explain how this is working. So I'm not going to run the cells, but I will share all this code with you like I do with all my other examples. And you can copy and paste this and run this on your own Jupyter Notebook environment, and it works perfectly fine. Let me just show you though what I'm looking at here. The Fed explained. Okay, so I have some PDF documents that I pulled from online. The Fed explained, what does the central bank do? Okay, and this is, if I go Control N, this is 131 pages, it looks like. So it's a pretty substantial document, right? And have all kinds of details about the Federal Reserve. We have another one here, Fed. And this one looks a little bit more cartoony, and PF1, that name doesn't really describe anything, but this is more data about the Federal Reserve in the context or in the form of a PDF document, right? So that's where I'm getting my source data from, okay, sourced from these 3 documents. And you can find it online. I'll include this, again, I'll include all this code so you can go ahead and do this on your own PDFs, but I try to make these videos in the source code very generic. So you wouldn't necessarily run it on these 3 PDFs. If you want to test it just as it is, you can certainly do that. But the expectation would probably be for you to run this on your own specific PDFs If you have Word documents, if you have, it could be anything that you put into this folder. It could be PowerPoint slide decks, right? If you want to ask questions about the contents of files and folder, that's what this code will do, right? So we're importing the libraries. Again, I'm not going to run it. It's already been run. We add the transformer right here, okay, for the pipeline, and we are summarizing all of the PDF files, right? So the model is going through, this is the model, by the way, and there's a whole bunch of them that you can pick from. I'm using this Google Flan T5 large, and that's for the summarizer. And for the QA model, we have DeepSet RoBERTa base squad 2, okay? I don't know who comes up with these names, but it's pretty creative. I gotta say, it's pretty creative. That's nice. So then once the model has been trained on that summarized data, I can ask it a question. Right, we have to combine everything together. I wrote a quick, very short function right here. So define the function, df function, and then return the process. It's really just one line of code. So it's pretty simple. That's one thing I really love about Python. It's so simple. It's so straightforward to use. It's taking something that's probably pretty complex on the back end. When you look at what this model is doing over here, that's probably extremely complex, but just to concatenate everything, summarize it, and to call the model, it's really just one line of code, right? You'll always have to define the name of your function. You'll have a return statement, but look at this, just one line of code does the whole lift for us. Okay, so I'm going to ask it a basic question here. What does the Federal Reserve actually do? And the answer, central bank. Okay, so I kind of know what the Federal Reserve does. I never worked there. I know some people that work there. And that's a central bank. So that question makes sense, and that answer makes sense. So I think this is working. This is give me some confidence here. So next question, what are the main findings across these documents? American people have a stable currency, okay? Again, that makes sense. It's a legitimate answer. And I think the model is performing as expected, okay? So what is financial stability? Stable currency, okay? And once again, I think that totally makes sense, right? Stable currency is what we're trying to achieve here. So I wanted to, but these answers are like what a 2-year-old could give me, right? Maybe 5-year-old. 2 years too young, right? But maybe a 5-year-old child can produce an answer like that. But what if I wanted more of a summary or just more text printed out, right? Like a 3-word answer isn't much of an answer. If you want text that's a lot longer, you can go ahead and use your summarizer and generator, just like we saw, and define a new function, a summarize text function. You can set this variable here. It's set for maximum length of 800. So that is 800 characters long, right? And we'll just get a more robust, more stable answer, I would say, just more refined and more robust answer, because a stable currency isn't really telling me a whole lot. So I'm going to go ahead with this set to 800, character length of 800. I would expect a richer, more comprehensive type of answer, okay? And the question here was, okay, here's the summary. People have a stable currency, and what does the federal bank do? Okay, so let's ask it the first question. What does the Federal Reserve actually do? So now we have a more comprehensive answer, right? The Fed explained what the central bank does. It's a book that explains what the Federal Reserve actually does. The Fed explains what the central bank is, a book that explains what the Federal Reserve actually does. Okay, that's a little bit choppy. That could be improved. I think we could test different models. You can see a list of some other models here. Okay, I just picked 2 to do the training and testing on. Google Flan. Actually, just one model here. Google Flan T5 large. But you can see here, there's a whole bunch of models that you can pick to do training and testing, right? So one interesting exercise would probably be to loop through all of these and then test the accuracy of each one. You can actually do that in a quantitative fashion. You can just do that more subjectively and just look at the output of what's printed out here. That's why I'm doing that. But maybe that's a future video. I just thought of that right now. That would be a good exercise. Loop through all of these and then test the richness of each answer. Okay, so one more question here, and we'll see what the answer is. What are the contents of these documents? Okay, so that's very good. What's in these files, right? That's what I want to know. About the central bank, what it does, it's written by the Federal Reserve. The Fed explains what the federal bank does. It's a book about the federal bank. of the United States. Okay, so again, a little bit choppy of an answer. I would expect something like a little bit more refined than that, but that's okay. We have a bunch of models to choose from. I just picked one at random. It's definitely working. Could it work better? Probably could, right? Probably could. I'm not 100% satisfied with that answer, but it's doing what it's supposed to do, right? You train the model, you test it, you ask the question, and it produces an answer for you. So I think that's pretty cool, right? And that's all for free, and I wouldn't say it's fast. I'm not running these cells because it does probably take 8 to 10 minutes on my laptop at least. I have a T14 here with a solid state drive. So if you have a faster computer, obviously it's going to produce an answer much quicker. And if you're running this on the cloud, it's going to be lightning quick, right? So it's going to be super fast. But on these ThinkPads, there's limitations. You don't have a whole lot of horsepower here, right? So in conclusion, I have some notes here. Let's go through it. Just spend a minute or two on this. Using ChatGPT desktop doesn't change the confidentiality of the interaction. Remember when I was saying before, if you put this onto ChatGPT, like if I put those 3 PDF files into ChatGPT, I can ask ChatGPT questions about that. And I don't think you can load it specifically or directly into ChatGPT unless that changed recently. But there's an app that you can run in your browser, and through your browser, you can load a PDF into ChatGPT and ask it questions about that. So that is one option for you. But again, if it's confidential, don't do that, right? You want to use something that's much more stable, maybe not stable, but secure, right? And you want to run these things on your desktop, like I'm doing right here, okay? So don't share any information with ChatGPT unless it's very generic or it's non-confidential information. Okay, but once you run it, well, if you do have an account with AWS or Azure, there's a lot more controls over the confidentiality of the data that you're working with, but nothing's 100% cyberproof or cybersecurity proof, whatever the term is there. And you hear about these hacks all the time in the news, right? So it's still kind of dangerous, even in the cloud. To do these kind of things, you might want to download it and just run it on your desktop. That's probably the safest way. But if you do have good cloud security, that could be an option too. I think this is just a little bit safer. That's what I think. So yes, pretty much it, guys. You can get the documents here. I'm going to save this source code and post that when I post the video a little bit later today, so you'll have all the source code and you will be good to go. That's it. Thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.